I was in the kitchen eating wonton with noodles, listening to the rain as it fell down softly from the sky, and I was also reading a book by the Japanese poet Basho. You were here too, at my place, but you were in the living room, and I could hear music blasting from the stereo, my stereo, and you were pacing around the room like a madman, a beast, looking as if you had a cactus up your ass and couldn't stand still for a minute. And were you quiet? The hell you were. You were talking loudly on the phone, you fool, so loud that I felt like shouting, turn the sound down and talk less loud. The noise and you, especially you, noisy you, were starting to get on my nerves. Before I met you, my life was a sea of still waters where one could swim in peace or stand still and listen to one's thoughts, but the moment you moved in with me, my life became a tempest of wild waters and all I could hear was noise. I looked around me as I ate. The kitchen was still in a mess from the previous night with cans of beers and dirty plates all over the place. For some reason you expected me, the woman of the house, the rightful owner, to clean up your mess. I ate slowly. I read slowly. A poem needs to be read slowly so that one can take the same journey as the poet that wrote it. You came into the kitchen, still talking loudly on the phone while Whitesnake's 1987 was blasting out of my stereo. Coverdale's high voice was singing Is This Love, and I knew that it definitely wasn't love. I watched you spill coffee grounds on the table and then you walked away without bothering to clean up your mess. You didn't even ask if I wanted a cup of coffee. You used all my things, took everything without giving a thing back. You never asked if I wanted anything because you only cared about yourself. I finished eating. Sweat was pouring down my forehead. I grabbed a tissue and wiped it off. I made a cup of coffee and then I cleaned up your mess. When I went into the living room, you were using my typewriter and your cup of coffee was standing on top of one of my manuscripts. I became furious. I wanted to grab your neck and rip your head off, but instead I asked, "What are you doing?" "Typing a letter for my mother," you said without turning around. You were always a mother's boy, always running to mama whenever something went wrong, never capable of sorting anything on your own, and mama still did the laundry for you. You were a child in a man's body. I moved your cup away. I looked at my ruined manuscript and only then did you look my way. Poor you, you useless thing, you looked upset, but had you put your selfishness aside you would have seen that I was the one who should have been upset by the way you treated me and left my place in a mess. You must have noticed something was wrong because you asked, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I'm not okay." Pause. I looked at you and you looked at me and you looked like a fool and I don't know how I looked. I knew I might as well say how I truly felt. Why lie and wait for changes that never come our way? I'm not okay and neither are you. What do you mean? You asked and you leaned your elbow on my typewriter, my working tool, one of my most treasured possessions, a typewriter that my father had given to me. And then I told you everything, what an idiot you were, a selfish, lazy, repugnant man, only good for one thing, oh baby, do it, give to me, but I would rather use my fingers to achieve pleasure than to have you hanging around for another day. Your face turned red. The truth is hard to take. I waited for a reaction but you knew I was right so you just walked away. I still had to clean up your mess, you, useless you dumb piece of shit. You left shortly afterwards. Good riddance, you pig. At the door you said, "You poets are all crazy." You went back to mama, "Oh little you, how old are you?" 35? Still want a bit of mama's milk? I cleaned all traces of you. I erased you out of my life. I sat down in front of my beloved typewriter and wrote all this down. Then I went out for a walk and I felt so happy for being alone.